Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Fitness, where we keep that real estate muscle strong. And today I have our new build specialist, our specialist with Team EvoAZ, Sonya, here to talk new builds. I'm really excited about this. And just so you guys know, she loves new builds. She's currently building a house herself. So she is like what do we call that? Like the Bible or the oracle comes to new building. So I'm so excited to have her here with us today. And today, Sonya, talk to us about choosing your community, because that's really important. And I feel like it's a step that people kind of don't take enough time to really get into the details of. And we have heard, not everybody, because obviously we have very happy clients, but we have heard in the past of some people saying, "Ooh, I wish I would have researched my community a little bit more."
Yeah. I think that's the step that a lot of people do wrong is they choose the house, or if they decide to just go to, like the realtor's website, or not the realtor, but the builder's website or something, and just research floor plans, then they fall in love with the floor plan. And it really should be the other way around. You should really narrow down that neighborhood first. And there's several reasons why. And this is whether you go with like your typical new build track home community, or if you're choosing a lot by a custom builder. It works both ways.
Totally agree. So just pretend that I know nothing.
Yeah.
And I am just starting to think about getting into a new home. New build incentives are getting me excited. Like, what is your advice to me to begin?
Yeah, so the first thing to consider is your community. Whenever you're researching communities, look at the community layout and if it makes sense. Sometimes there's somewhere like the roads are kind of weird. Sometimes the location of the community. Sometimes like you'll get like some amenities, and there'll be like one total end. So whenever you're picking your lot, if they start at one end and then they end at another end, like how are you going to be in construction, surrounded by construction forever? I always advise people to, when they're looking at new build communities, when we're going to kind of, whenever you're interested and you want to go and choose when's the right time to purchase in this community, always look at the build out of it. Because in the beginning, the nice thing is most likely, it all depends on the market, right? Because we don't have a crystal ball. Most likely, if you purchase in the beginning of a community, toward then the end, there's a higher likelihood of you gaining equity. So that's always a good thing to consider too, because you have to look at the long-term effects. So there's the community layout, and then there's also your amenities. What amenities are you interested in? Like what does your lifestyle want? Do you want there to be a pool? Do you want there to be playgrounds? Do you want it to be gated? And then with all those amenities, you have to think about the HOA. What does the HOA cover? Does the HOA cover front yard maintenance? Do they cover road maintenance? All of that good stuff you really, really have to think about, because if you think the HOA is going to be covering something you expected, or if it's completely different than what you're used to, then you could miss something and get fined, or it just be an added expense. So there's that part. There's also school boundaries. So in Arizona, we don't have the best rep for schools. Now, we do have some of the best schools in the country. So there's certain parts in the valley that have fantastic schools. But if they don't have fantastic schools and you're researching them, do they have charter options? Do they have private options? What do the bus routes look like if you can't take your child to school? Are those bus routes, they drop off in a place where it's easily walkable for your child and it's safe? So you have to think about that as well. Those are all long-term things that you have to think about.
I like what you said about location, though, in general, because, and maybe you're getting to this and I'm skipping ahead, I apologize, but like,
you're fine.
We know communities that have a railroad track right there.
Yes. Yeah, that's definitely one of the red flags to look out for. So railroad tracks, power lines. You might be okay with power lines, but some people may not. And we don't know the future. You might want to sell later. And I know a home that sold, one of the homes sold for, let's see, $400,000 more than the one that has power line that's still on the market for over a year. There's a home that I know of like that, and it's just because of the power lines.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about. Other things that you see, if there's apartment buildings going up right behind you and you're kind of backing it, sometimes those go kind of sky high. Are they going to be peering into your backyard? Is there going to be a lot of traffic going behind there? I visited a community in way East Mesa, and these people bought these homes, and they're pretty homes, but then the city across the street passed for these huge commercial buildings, and they're not these like 2-story ones. They're like, it was like
Giant.
3 to 4 stories. Yeah, it was like 20 feet away from the road, and it's just massive. And I'm sure those buyers are pretty ticked off, because that totally tanked their property values. Nobody wants to live next to that. So there's ways that we can help you research as much as we can. We can't promise anything whenever we're researching, because plans change, mostly with commercial. But there are things that we can help you with. And another reason to always have a realtor whenever you are thinking about new builds, because these things are very real, and when it affects your property values, when you mess with somebody's equity, that's their lifeline, right? There's your retirement, college fund, those kind of things. So these things are super important to maintain the value of your home, is to make sure to question about long-term plans. So
I totally agree. And I feel like the sales agent of the community can be very helpful, but we have to keep in mind who the sales agent works for.
Yes. Yeah. They always have the builder's interest part. So it's so important. And we'll do another video, because I could talk forever on the pros and cons about why to have a realtor with you, but it is so important not only to have them represent you during the actual sale, but to really help guide you to research these things, because there's something that people get so excited about buying a new home, and depending on how the market is, whether it's good rates or bad rates, whether they're first time buyers getting their foot in the door, it really needs to be a smart financial decision, and you need somebody to help guide you in that. So super important. But talking about that, you also, whenever you're looking at communities and choosing the right community, you have to think about like I mentioned earlier, your long-term plans, or kind of what your lifestyle is. Like, are you a family looking at home? Does this community match your family? Does the outlook of this community, the build out, match what your family wants? Are you a retiree? Is this kind of like quiet, laid back, or do you want more convenience? Or are you an investor? Because we see a lot of investors purchasing in new build communities. And if you're an investor, how does it look to have short-term gains? What is the best way to do that? So there's so many different ways at looking at when the smartest time to buy is. And that's why we never talk about this is the right time to buy. This is because it depends on everybody's personal lifestyle and their wants. So once we talk with you and we help you figure that out, we could really help hone in on what community is right for what you're looking for, because some communities are great for investors. Some communities are horrible. Some are great for retirees. There's some 55 plus retiree communities. So we have to look at that. And then you have to also think about the vibe that you want, like we were talking about. Do you want it quiet and remote, or do you want it active and amenity heavy? So that's one of the things that you really have to think about. And if those things aren't there, I always like to take Eastmark. And Eastmark is a huge master plan community, and it's located in Southeast Mesa off of Ellsworth and Ray. It is blown up. It had, I think, like 10 different builders in it. There's still new builds going up now. It started like back in like 2013, 2014, where they were starting to prep the ground, and then it took forever, but there was just homes there. And you have to, these people really had to trust that the city would bring those amenities. And so far there have been a high school. There's several, Eastmark used to be at the edge of the earth, and now it's like Mecca. So there's stores, there's a lot of, and the cool thing is there's something for everyone. There's a 55 plus community. There's a gated community that has a little bit more expensive homes. There's townhomes that are there. There's apartments. There's so many different ones, but you really have to look at what those future plans are. But with that, with those amazing future plans, there's a cost through everything. And one of the biggest things when researching communities, if you're like, oh, this is going to go in, this is going to go in, there is this thing, it is called Melrose, or some people call it a CFD. So it is, so what it is a tax that is assessed, and they charge the buyers, and it helps fund, what is it called? It starts with I. See, I can't even think now. Infrastructure. There you go. So
there we go.
It helps fund all of that infrastructure. So there's a lot of that going on right now in all of the faster growing, like Santan Valley, Queen Creek, Apache Junction. I know is getting one. That they're planning on doing one way in Peoria. So where they're growing so fast, where infrastructure needs to be put in place a lot sooner, they want funding for it, right? Where who's going to pay for that? So they ask the residents, like, hey, you want this? Well, you got to pay a little bit. So that's something to think about, is what, if any, are any future assessments. Also, taxes on your home, just property taxes in general. Always when you're buying a new build home, this isn't really location specific, it's just kind of in general. Your property taxes will change in a year or two. They'll catch up to you. Right now, they're being assessed as land. So think about all of those costs and how they're going to add up, and if those costs will be, if they're good with your lifestyle and you're good with it, because you could fall in love with the community and be like, oh, this is the best community ever, and you're even the price of the home, and then you get slapped with that could potentially push you into foreclosure. We don't want that for you. So that's something to make sure to think about the future assessments or shared costs for any amenities or infrastructure. But other than that, well, on another episode, we'll talk about choosing the right house, but that's pretty much it on choosing the right community. So yeah, a lot of information, like drinking through a fire hose.
Yes, very important information though. And again, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, these are things that people kind of skip over, and they don't really dig into the details of these things, especially if they don't have somebody like you that is very well versed, that has done this 100,000 times, that kind of thing. Maybe they're going in, maybe they're a first-time home buyer and going in on their own, thinking that the new build process is easy, and on paper, it really seems like it is, but there is a lot to it. And I appreciate having you available for our clients that are going through this, whether they're doing it for the first time or the 10th time. I know that you are very valuable. So thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for being here. And if you guys want to check out any of our previous episodes, hop on over to our YouTube channel. It is at Team EvoAZ. That's our handle. Scroll down just a little ways. You'll see lots of playlists. But one that you'll see that you might be interested in, especially if you want to listen to Sonya talk again about more new build tips and tricks, is our real estate fitness playlist. You will see that on our homepage. If you prefer to listen podcast style, hop over to your favorite podcast platform, do a quick search for Arizona Real Estate Radio. There you will see us. Like, download, notify, all the things, and you will never miss an episode. We will see you next time.